The audience can hear my mic, but they can't hear the desktop yet. So we're just going to give it 1 minute to see if people decide to join us. And we've got people here already. So I'd say we switch to now. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the Tangent Tavern. I'm Josh Strife.
I'm Callum Upton, and we have our guest.
Oh, KiraTV, what up? I thought this was going to be a professional setup where I was getting introduced, but
oh no, we're going to do that. We're going to do that. It's going to be 2 hours of slowly introducing you. That's what it's going to be. Ladies and gents, welcome to the Tangent Tavern. Kira, thank you very much for finding some time and joining us this evening.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
It's highly likely everyone here knows exactly who you are and what you do, but for like the 3 people that don't, would you like to explain who you are, what you do, and a bit about you in MMORPG games?
Well, for starters, let's wait a second because my audio has absolutely buggered itself again.
That's the professional. Yeah, that is the professional start that we expected from.
See, this is going to become like a reoccurring thing, isn't it?
It is.
I've been spending the last couple of days catching up on the podcast, and this is apparently
just standard at this point. Let's find out why this isn't happening.
This is a traditional start for the podcast now. We start, we introduce, Callum's audio breaks, and then in about an hour and a half we'll start talking about some. What is it? Probably crypto. Kira, what's an NFT?
Yes.
Oh god.
Do you have to get me started on this straight away? Can we not like ease into it a little bit? We've got to go straight into the NFTs.
We're fixed now, so yeah.
Okay. Well, think of an NFT like, at least with what people are doing in the gaming space, gaming space. The NFT for now is being used as a way to take money from people for absolutely nothing because they're getting nothing back from it. At least mostly. There's a couple. Crypto NFT games that are doing something a little bit different, but for the most part, it's just a way to take money from people that are trying to take money from other people. That's ostensibly where we're at with it.
So it's selling the gaming Brooklyn Bridge, effectively.
Yeah, okay. It's basically Star Citizen, but 8 years in the future. And I've just triggered so many people, and I'm not looking forward to the comments I'm going to get from Star Citizen fans.
I don't even think Star Citizen is going to be Star Citizen 8 years in the future. I think that's still just going to be doing exactly what it's doing now. Cal, how's your audio?
It's all good. We're sorted. Because my OBS crashed right before we started, and it reverted all changes. So we're good now.
Traditional OBS crash. Kira, please explain who you are to the 3 people that might not know.
I'm KiraTV. I make videos about MMOs. Scams a lot of the time as well, and that's about it. Not too interesting, not too entertaining.
You say
keep
not
it easy, nice and simple.
You say not too interesting. You have videos with a ridiculous amount of views on the MMORPG. You were the most requested guest on this show by a country mile. Everyone wanted you on to hear. So, Kira, what's the best MMORPG and why?
That's a tough one. I'd probably say for me, longevity-wise, probably WoW, just for how much I've played it. But it's obviously not the best anymore. That's going to be a controversial one, but
controversial answer.
The one I've played the most would probably be WoW over the years.
I see. What you meant obviously was RuneScape, of course.
Yeah. That would be the loaded answer that everyone wants, especially on this podcast. But for me, not really one I've played a ton.
You know what? Let's not avoid controversial topics. What do you think about what's happened to WoW recently? I'm sorry that you've come on for like a casual chat and straight away we've just sat
thrown
you down
you under the bus.
Talk about the most controversial topic currently in the MMO landscape. What's happened, Kira? How do we fix this?
We don't. I don't think there's any fixing WoW because the developers don't seem to want to fix WoW, which I saw some things on Twitter about what they were saying. They get very upset when people say they don't care about the game or whatever. But at least at the top level, the people who are making the decisions or allowing decisions be made don't seem to care about their consumers whatsoever. So until that changes, which in a company as corporate as Activision is not going to change, then we're pretty much stuck with it. And I've seen some people saying, make WoW 2.0. They can't make WoW 1.0 good. So, a reset's not going to do anything. They had the chance for a reset with classic WoW, and they still managed to go full greed mode and start putting bullshit into the cash shop. So I don't know why at this point anyone would trust they'd do it.
Do you think it's moved from being an adventure game made by people who love adventure games to a very corporate, a very clinical treadmill almost? When a new expansion comes out, the adventure line is pretty much set for you, and you go off and you run it like a hamster on a wheel, and then they've replaced the excitement with preset monetization.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think the game's really World of Warcraft anymore, to be honest. That playing the game in retail, even if you go back and play like Classic, Burning Crusade Classic, they're not comparable anymore. It's with RuneScape, you can see with RuneScape 3 and old school RuneScape, they're similar games. Obviously, they've changed a million things, and design-wise, they're completely different. But with WoW, the feel of playing the game, it doesn't feel like playing WoW anymore. It's a totally different experience, in my opinion.
What MMOs do you think have given that feeling recently? That feeling of adventure and newness? Because we'll get on to New World later. And Cal, what was the last time you had like an adventure online?
Honestly, it's been a long time since I've jumped in something and really felt that I'm adventuring. And I think the last time I honestly did that was Arcade. Because when I jumped into Arcade, it was still Korean. I couldn't find out what I was doing, and I just had to explore. And they just brought out a translation pack, like a community-made one. So it was day one. I had no idea of anything that was going on, and I just enjoyed adventuring. But on that topic of the Blizzard changes, did you see their attempt to appease the people this week?
They've ended sexism. I'm really impressed.
Yeah, but the way they've done it is just phenomenal. I mean,
fantastic.
Yeah, they for those listening, they took paintings in World of Warcraft where there was like a woman lying down on a chaise longue in not even in lingerie really, just like scantily clad pretty much, and replaced her with a bowl of fruit. And
I mean, if that doesn't fix the game, then what does?
Like somebody commented saying,
"Don't you guys like fruit?"
Sexism. Remove the woman from the equation.
Well,
we've solved sexism. We have removed a woman and added a fruit.
if they don't, I've not like super looked into it. If they removed like the section in Black Temple with all the succubus and
how would they do that?
Naked.
That was one of the best parts of Black Temple because you killed those to get the pet. They did the whip crack sound effect, and she was great.
Oh God, Fortnite did that, didn't they, recently? As well, they had their big controversy.
Not gonna lie, I don't really follow Fortnite.
I don't follow it either, but they had a Martin Luther King Jr. like remembrance event.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
And they removed all emotes because people were doing
they were doing the whip crack emotes during the Martin Luther King Remembrance Day.
Well, this is where it gets a little weird. So they removed it because people were doing the monkey emote in front of his presentation. So obviously they banned all emotes. Then Marvel said, we've got a deal where you're going to have all these things in your event. And the one emote that was kept in the event was the whip crack from, is it Catwoman?
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously this transpired in something much bigger, much more offensive than it was supposed to be, and in the end I think they also banned that. So
it's stupid. I mean, the problem is not having sexy representations of anything. The actual sexy representation I don't feel is a problem, because if you look at Final Fantasy XIV, there are sexy men everywhere. Godbert Mandeville in the Hildebrand quests is literally just stood there in gold pants in a short he's absolutely ripped. And then you look at all the attractive people in this. It's not we are respecting all genders by removing a sexualization. It's just sexualize everyone and everything equally if you're going to do that.
Yeah.
And also removing it doesn't, the things that they're being criticized for, that obviously doesn't address anything. So it's just platitudes instead of addressing the actual problem. It's just I think things like that with PR, it's just obfuscating and changing the narrative to talk about because we're talking about that now and not what's been going on with Blizzard. So it's like they've moved what people are talking about to this ridiculous shit, and I think that's why they do it.
Throwing up a straw man, just divert and hope that people forget about the original problems.
I honestly think that's why they do it, and not because they actually think it's going to do anything, because they know people aren't that well. most people aren't that stupid.
Yeah. Guys in the chat, by the way, if you have any questions for myself, Callum, or Kira, please type and I'll make sure I read. I read as many messages as I can. They all appear on the screen as well. And we want to get your questions to one of the most experienced MMORPG reviewers and researchers on YouTube. And we need to know what Kira thinks about literally everything. So I'm just going to go through and have a look, see if we can grab some questions for you specifically. Don't you guys have fruit bowls? That's the most question. I do have a fruit bowl downstairs that I bought and I put some apples in. And when I say I put some apples in, I mean I bought a 6-pack of apples from Tesco. They're still in the plastic wrap that I just put in the bowl.
Do it. That's how literally every time I've been in someone's house, unless you're trying to sell the house, I don't know why you take it out of the wrapper and just put it in the fruit bowl.
Just put it in the fruit bowl, leave it there, and then just unwrap it as and when you need a fruit. You don't need to open it to the whole air. People are asking, Kira, what was your first MMO, and which one are you the most nostalgic for?
Ultima Online for both.
Okay.
Ultima Online was just... It was when I first started playing PC games, pretty much. And also just a game that was completely ahead of its time, in my opinion. Just fantastic experience. One that even if you go back and play now, has features that no other MMO has, which is absolutely mental considering how far we are in. It's like one of those things. The games that look the worst have the most features.
Yeah.
And Ultima Online just had so much you could do in it. Just a great game.
When you know that the graphics aren't going to be your selling point, you focus on the gameplay being your selling point.
Plus, back then, obviously, there was not good graphics anyways, but Ultima Online's just... You could do so much with that, and it's just a shame they never really continued it, because it essentially got killed off by things like people going into like the full 3D games at that point.
I think EverQuest was one of the big turning points for getting rid of Ultima, because it seems that every release of every MMO has been about appealing to the more casual player base. EverQuest was much more casual than Ultima Online, and then World of Warcraft was much more casual than EverQuest, and it seems to be whenever a new game comes out, the most casual game gets the majority of players, with the downside of not keeping them. What do you think of all the new boys that we're seeing? We're seeing Ashes of Creation, we're seeing obviously the Amazing Chronicles of Alaria that's going to be changing the world. New Cal,
for better or worse.
Tell us what you think about the new wave of games that are coming
out. I mean, New World's obviously the big one that everyone's got an opinion on. Ashes of Creation is an alpha. Like it's not really a game. You can't really play it. It's just a proof of concept at the moment. But it's quite exciting because the sieges and everything look pretty cool. But
they do.
Aliens obviously just Unreal Engine 3, South Korean. Just you've done it before. You've seen it before. It's like a week. It's like going on all day to Skegness for the week or Blackpool or something. You don't. When you're done with it, you're happy to leave, but.
You do it once every 5 years to remind you why you don't go back to Skegness.
Yeah, you go and sightsee. You see the the spice heads, etc., and have an ice cream, and then you come back and you're happy to be back. New World is obviously like really cool.
Fantasy Island. I'm not going to let you knock Fantasy Island because that was a brilliant little theme park.
Yeah, true, and you could also get really good knockoff DVDs there if you want. I think it's like Men in Black 2 or something that I bought from there. Great, like £4 on the market or something. Great. But New World, I think, is the one that most people are going to be excited for, and also one that has a lot of problems still.
Yeah.
What are the problems?
It's kind of worrying that it has.
Have you guys played New World's recent beta?
No. I was watching a lot of people. I was too busy playing Guild Wars 1. But what's happening with the New World beta? What have they changed and what haven't they changed that they should have changed?
I mean, they just need a bunch more content. The game's just not done. And I don't think it's going to be for like 6 to 12 months. And I think because their community wants to play the game so bad, it's just going to have like a pretty lackluster launch. But aside from that, the game's actually good on like a fundamental level.
Yeah, it's a good quality game. There's just not enough of it. The video I just put out was saying that although New World has got decent crafting, and it's got decent combat, and it's got decent exploration, people have already theory crafted it, and they're going to be max level within a week, and then they're going to wonder where all the content went.
I think part of the problem for that is that the journey is no longer the reward in these sort of games. If you take a look at, we'll use RuneScape as an example, the journey is the reward. That is you playing the game. Whereas with all of these new games, your immediate thought is, right, I need to get to end game. How do I get to the maximum level?
Yeah.
Where there's not actually that much content to do. So you kind of exhaust all your content thinking you're going to get more, and you don't.
Do you believe
I think that's the problem with a lot of them.
Do you believe Endgame has been a net positive or a net negative for the MMO, Kira?
I think it depends. I don't think there is a net positive or negative for most things, but I think it depends on the game and who's playing the game as well. For me, probably a negative overall, because it just makes everything so, I don't know if formulaic would be the right word, but you just know now when you're getting into a game, within a week or so, everyone's going to figure everything out. There's no real... I struggle to think of the word. There's no mystery in MMOs anymore. And I know that's like a problem that we've created, and being content creators, we also perpetuate because the need is there for it. But at the same time, like, it just makes something that, for me, when I was younger, was something that was so full of wonder, just completely solved before the games even come out, which always really bothers me with, like, the betas, the alphas, everybody gets the game incomplete before the game releases, and then everyone knows what's going on. It just kind of ruins everything. I know that's not like all related to Endgame, but you know, it's part of it. Because even like raid tests on WoW and stuff like that, they're already everyone's got guides out before the boss even comes out. And while you can say like, oh, you know, just don't use the guide, good luck if you're not in a guild that are just like, okay, let's go bang our heads against this for a few hours, because everyone else is just going to watch the guide, and then, you know, if you don't, you're going to get kicked.
The video that I put out, was literally exactly that. I was reading a guide for New World, and the opening paragraph was like, don't worry about your items for the first 30 levels. And I thought, what's the point of having items for the first 30 levels then? If they're going to be completely irrelevant within the next 5 hours, why are you giving me them now?
Yeah.
Which is a sucky thing. Cal, do you have any questions for Kira? Because I've got loads, but I want to pace them out slowly.
I did have a question that was going to be for you, Josh, because we weren't sure if Kira was going to make it today. But okay, I'll ask both of you. What games do you think, or what TV series or film do you think would make an incredible MMO?
TV series.
TV series.
Oh, okay. I mean, like, a good MMO was in, you know, we can't talk about mechanics because that could be
just
different.
Story-based. Imagine that the mechanics are pretty standard for an MMO. What do you think would make a good MMO from a story perspective?
I think My Hero Academia has got a massive potential because you've got hundreds. It's basically just, you know, City of Heroes and City of Villains, but with a slight anime twist, or Stargate. Yeah, My Hero Academia will be my vote for that. You can have loads of people with loads of powers, build up teams, take on the League of Villains, fight together. I think that could work really well.
It could, yeah.
I've never seen it, so I can't comment on that. But you've mentioned Stargate there, which I'm going to steal because I didn't think of it, but that would actually probably be a fantastic one because Stargate is amazing. They were going to actually make a Stargate MMO at one point, and then it just vanished into the ether. So it probably would have been absolutely terrible. So I'm probably glad that they didn't, like the Matrix MMO. But that probably would be. Yeah,
that was very weird for a bit.
Someone in chat says Breaking Bad. I'm not sure how you turn that into an MMO, but I'd like to see it. It'd just be like a big RV park, pretty much.
What would be like the worst TV show to tell? Like, you couldn't turn like Riverdale into an MMO. I
can't say I've seen that one either.
EastEnders, the MMO.
You're not EastEnders.
Would be a banger, Coronation Street. Coronation Street would probably be a banger as well.
I'd love to see the combat system in that. Some kind of London gangsters fighting outside while some old lady... Your quest is to just go to the shop. That's the only thing.
That would be a quest as well, and it'd probably take you 45 minutes to do it as well. They'd probably have to have a recall back to it the next episode as well.
Yeah, you would. A Little House on the Prairie, The Office, something like that.
Your mission is to tax the market stalls.
Yes.
There's like stealth elements in there.
So yeah, definitely My Hero Academia and Stargate is a really, really, really good one. I'd be tempted to say things like Star Trek and Firefly, but we've already got a kind of
we've got Star Trek though, haven't we? And
that's Cryptic though. They're the people that did Neverwinter. And the monetization in that gets really excessive in the future.
Yeah.
I've not actually played it much. Have you played it?
I've not touched Star Trek Online, but I've read enough about the game to know that I don't want to. So It's like whenever I see anything with Cryptic on it now, I just assume it's going to be the same way all their games are, and the assumption is usually spot on. So
yeah,
it's apparently super buggy, isn't it? I've seen clips of people running around with their arms just held up in the air for no reason, like just stuck in animation poses. And
that's not a bug. That's a feature.
That's a feature. Just really happily running around, just waving your arms.
That's the surrender emote. Yeah, because Cryptic made the Magic the Gathering MMO right up until they decided to kill that, like in beta or something. I never got a chance to play it. Kira, do you know any more about that?
Yes. So from what I got told, which you can take with a pinch of salt because I couldn't verify who they were, is that was actually a licensing issue. That is the reason that game closed down. But it's lucky because the game was fucking awful. So it's really lucky that they just closed it anyway, because they did the classic. What was that? Sorry, Carl?
It's been a service to us all, just closing down.
Because, I mean, luckily as well, they refunded everyone. So they refunded me because I spent money on the game as like a test of how bad the pack openings were. So I got my £40 back, so that was fantastic. But the game, they did the good old, our game's not ready to launch, but we're going to launch it anyway, but don't worry, it's in open beta. But everything's the same. The cash shop's the same, but we're going to hide behind this veil of like, oh, you can't criticize our game because it's open beta. And then, of course, when you do criticize the game because that's stupid, the people who are somehow fans of the game defend it completely, just vehemently with the shield of, it's just a beta, bro. Why are you talking like it's a full release? So,
I think we find this in the MMO sphere quite intently. When you critique a product, you're not attacking the fans of that product. You're critiquing the product objectively. You're saying this is what you objectively think, or subjectively, but then you make it very obvious. Do you find that MMORPG fans are, for want of a better word, passionate when you say something that they don't agree with?
Yeah, I don't think it's like specific to MMO fans. I think it's just fandoms in general. If you're a fan of anything, you're probably a little bit too close to it. I don't specifically like to use the word fan because I associate that sometimes with probably more negative things than I should do. But yeah, if you talk shit about somebody's game, they're not generally very happy about it. I'm sure you guys have found that one out.
Endless emails. I've had literal essays emailed to me by fans of games saying, hey, if you give me just 8 hours and hop on board and come with me, I can show you the game. Every time I say I might play this game in the future, I get a small army of people Discord message me and say, hey, I'm an end game player, I've been playing for 5 years, let me give you equipment, let me do this, let me do that. And I'm thinking, how much free time do you think I have?
And if you've got to get all that stuff to begin with for the game to be fun, it's not fun.
It's not fun. It's not fun at all.
I mean, I had that recently with Bless Unleashed, and people telling me, oh, you've just got to get to this point before the game gets fun. And it's like, it might be for you, but there's sometimes when you play a game, there's things you can't really reconcile. Like if you don't like the UI, for instance, you can get used to something being shit, but it's still going to be shit later. You know what I mean? Like it's like Fantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis. Really cool game, by the way. Doesn't have a lot of content. It has some other problems, but I don't know what it is about Japanese game developers, but they haven't quite figured out how to make UI actually fun or usable as of yet. And that game, I think it's fairly objectively right to say it has a very poor UI system, and then obviously people that are fans of the game say it's not bad, you get used to it, which I think are conflicting sentences. It is bad and you do get used to it, that's fine, but it's just some things about games are not going to be fun to you regardless of how much you do it, and that's how some games are. You can just figure that out pretty quickly.
I think that's why a lot of people don't get into RuneScape, isn't it? Because I have to admit, if you don't know what's coming later on, RuneScape seems real boring. I can see why people would get bored of that really quick, and it's hard for us to see that now that so much has changed in the in the early game. It's essentially got worse.
It's basically saying to someone, wait for the sunk cost fallacy to kick in. Keep playing until Stockholm Syndrome happens, and then you'll enjoy it.
It's why I've not got into RuneScape in a real long time either. It's one of those where I keep thinking I'll go back and play RuneScape, because I used to play back in the day. It was one of those games. It was Habbo Hotel and RuneScape. You'd go to the library with the boys after school, get on, and you'd play one of those two games. And I played it for years, but it's one of those where I keep thinking, oh, I'll go back and I'll get back into old school RuneScape, and I just never get around to it because I know what's waiting for me is like getting used to playing the game again and how old it looks and feels. And I know there's stuff out there now, especially with like the RuneLite client and things, but it's one of those you've got to really commit to doing it.
Yeah, you do.
For those,
it is a game of commitment.
For anyone in the chat who doesn't know, you might not have that much free time to actually play RuneScape, Kira, because your video upload schedule for the last couple of months has been a video a day or something like that.
Yeah.
It's been ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just tell us a bit about how much content you've covered and put out over the last 6 months.
I'd struggle to tell you, to be honest. I think I've probably missed uploading a video about 9 times in the last 5 months or something, and that's usually by choice because I'll just be like, I'm just not doing it. I'm not doing it today. But the problem with that is it's just not sustainable. You would eventually just either run out of things to talk about, which is quite difficult for me, to be honest, because I can talk all day, but the topics in the MMO genre, there's not that many, so you start having to like find things, and at that point you're spending more time finding stuff than you are actually making stuff. And that's the point where I'm at now, where I'm just like, I'm gonna have to just make the videos better so they perform better long term instead of just doing loads of videos, because as much as I do like just talking about random topics, you know, it is a bit much to keep up with.
They get watered down, don't they, the videos, if you're making them every day? I'd imagine anyway.
Yeah, you want evergreen content instead of daily.
Yeah, exactly. I do want to do more of a schedule like what you've got going on at the moment, Josh, but I'm not a scheduled person. I'm a pretty chaotic person, so it's just one of those where I'm like, I've got a couple hours. What's going on? Oh, your realty's just made a video. I'll just watch that and react to it, and then that's really
I just watched your video on that. I love it.
Yeah.
What you've done there
I absolutely love it.
You've brought up possibly the greatest MMORPG in making. Kira,
no.
why don't I can see Callum dying inside. Kira, tell us everything about Earth 2.
Oh, well, I don't think we've got time after. What time are we supposed to be finishing this? I mean,
do you know what Earth 2 reminds me of before you start quickly? Earth 2 is like Snowpiercer and Shane's like Mr. Wilford. Like
that's actually not bad. That's actually not bad.
It's true though, isn't it? Like you know there's some higher being up there that's controlling all this. You're just not sure if he's real or if he's fully with it.
I mean, it's like have you watched the Snowpiercer TV show?
I've just started season 2.
I've seen the film.
Oh mate.
No.
The first season's not all that good, but if you stay with it, season 2 is good because of one reason. It's got Sean Bean in it.
Yeah, that's all I was holding out
Brilliant.
for.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So as soon as you get to that point, you're like, everything else doesn't really matter because he's really good because he's Sean Bean. Yeah. He's just good in everything.
He's the carry.
Yeah, he does carry everything he's ever in, and that's actually not a bad metaphor for Earth 2, because Shane Isaac is worshipped like a cult leader.
He is.
Which is very much like Sean Bean's character in Snowpiercer. So
yeah.
Basically what they've been doing recently is what's his name? Shane Isaac. Shane Isaac's outed himself as just a liar.
Oh,
and,
what's happened? I saw you uploaded a video, but I haven't been able to watch all of them yet. What's happened?
Yeah, Carl knows exactly what I'm talking about. Basically, they promised that you would be able to buy EPLs with Essence.
Oh, yeah, then they made it so it's money.
Yeah. So basically, you had to buy mentors with money. They just have the weirdest concepts ever. Just spend money. So you bought your tiles, and then you bought your mentors, and then you put your mentors on your tiles, and then you add milk, and you get your essence. And then after you get your essence, you were supposed to buy EPLs, which are basically like domain names, with essence. But then as soon as it got released, he was just like, no essence, just like $10 or whatever it was. And then everyone went crazy, obviously, because they're like, you've lied to us here, Shane. He's like, no, I haven't. And we've just decided to change, which is a very pretty way of saying, yeah, we did lie to you.
Lie.
We realised we could charge for it.
Yeah, but then they 180'd it,
Okay.
So now you can buy them with essence.
But you can
So,
still buy them with cash as well.
Yeah, so I
It's-
guess everything's fine because that apparently
Yeah.
was enough to placate their audience. So there you go.
I mean, and it's funny as well because the balance of the EPL price for essence and price for money is so skewed because I don't know if you know this, Kira, but I am number 1 on the leaderboards for Earth 2 for the highest return on profit.
Yeah.
Wait, how?
No, he genuinely is.
Because I got given 100 tiles and I paid fuck all for them.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Not on their official ones because it doesn't track the the return percentage. Yeah, it's on the unofficial one that's tracking return on investment. So I'm at something like 180,000% return on investment because it's just capped at that. But so even with a $100 portfolio of tiles, I will have to wait 4.5 months to get an EPL for a single tile with essence.
Wow.
Or I can just buy it for $5.
Oh, I see.
Or maybe you've just not. Have you thought about the fact that you've not got enough mentors?
Dude, I've got mentors on all of them. These came pre-decked out.
Damn.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
Earth 2 is going to be an interesting saga to follow, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kira, someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I'm making an MMO." I'm sure people have come and said that to you already.
Yeah.
What's your response? What are the questions we need to ask? What are the realities that we need to pound into people?
I mean, if you come to me with that question, I'm probably just going to ignore you. But if you've got a little bit more than that, then we can probably move on. First things first.
That's all they say. They just say, "Hey, I'm making an MMO. What should I do?"
Yeah. I just look at that and then I just pretend I'm not seeing it. And
just don't.
Yeah, just don't bother. I mean, you've always got the first thing I'm always going to ask is, who are you? Like, who are you? Why are you making an MMO?
Are you credible?
Yeah, are you credible? Have you made an MMO before? Have you worked on one? Do you even know someone who's worked on one? Like, have you sniffed an MMO before?
Okay, Cal,
Like,
you and me are role playing this. We're making an MMO. Kira's the expert. No, but I once downloaded RPG Maker on Steam. I haven't opened it, but I own it.
Yeah.
So you're just trying to speedrun me blocking you then? You're just trying to speedrun me,
Yes.
putting you on that ignore list?
Yes, we need to know what you would do, because we want to be different, don't we, Cal?
Yeah, oh god, yeah. We're not going to do it like other MMOs. It's going to be different.
It's going to be different, but what should we do differently and what should be bad?
This sounds like every time somebody presents an MMO anyway.
Yeah,
This is pretty much exactly how it goes.
It is.
You should definitely buy some store assets. The Unity store is really good for this. Or if you want to go like top dollar, you can go Unreal Engine asset store, and then you just put them all together, and then just release a trailer.
I mean, this game is going to be our dream world, so we need to know.
You knew exactly where
I knew where you were going with that. I knew where you were. But what do you think of? There's a lot of people releasing indie MMOs, and the MMO, I mean, the first M is massively, and it's very hard to get a small team to do something massive. Do you think that if there was a small team of people wanting to make an MMO-style experience, what do you think a small team's strength would be? Because their weakness is they can't have a massive game. What would the strength be?
I guess being able to deliver something that isn't ran by suits is pretty much the only thing you've got, and being able to interact with your community probably better and more organically. I would say the main strength though is just being able to make something that's you're not governed by people that are just holding the purse strings and saying it has to have this return, it has to be this kind of way because this is what sells. You've got to copy X game or Y game and have these features in. That's pretty much the only strength you've got as somebody who's not got money is
just
that
follow
you
the
can
fun.
just make something. Yeah, you can just make something. That's why indie games are good. Just in general, I think that's why I play indie games more so than AAA games, is because they give you something that somebody's made, and they probably want to make money from it, but they also know that they can't compete with the big boys, so they have to make something new and something fun. And when they do that, lo and behold, you get fun video games. Crazy concept for the AAA developers out there that are all just copying each other constantly, just banging loot boxes and everything. But the only strength would, in my opinion, be just making something new and original, which unfortunately is probably 9 times out of 10 going to be not very good, but at least they might have some good ideas that someone else can take and use.
Yeah, someone in my chat's quite rightly pointed out, indie developers are a lot more connected to their community and player base, which I think is one of the biggest strengths.
100%. Yeah, I agree.
Like actually taking in the feedback and not having to run it past the higher ups and stuff. Just do it.
Yeah. Also in having like open dialogue as well, because you don't have like a marketing department, you don't have a legal department telling you can't say this because it'll make us liable, etc., etc. So you can have like an actual real open dialogue with who is going to be your community. So
people in my chat have just said there's less lost in translation between the idea and then the creation of the idea or the development, because if one dude is having the idea and then a small team of 4 or 5 people are making it, it's probably going to be what they
Chinese
imagine.
whispers.
Once you put it through 100 or 200 or 300 people, by the time it gets to be made, it's totally different from what the idea started out as.
Yeah. And it scales up quite quickly
as well with having a smaller team as well, because you can be more connected with each other as well as the community. So like it's a whole I guess relationship in that way.
Yeah, like with a team of about 12 people working on our game, even that's a nightmare to convey things between, relay it round, and then you get something that's not quite what you thought it was at the end. So I can only imagine that when you scale that up tenfold, it's just a disaster. Like it's not, it doesn't even resemble what you were thinking.
Kira, let's just step away from MMOs for a second. Talk me through your, gaming history, your passion, the video games that made you either want to do what you're doing now or had a massive impact on your life. So I'd love to know the games that you played.
I mean, I think everyone grew up playing, at least from how old I am. I'm an MMO boomer. Pretty much just anything on all the old consoles, like all the Mario games, the Final Fantasy games, things like that. And then Halo, obviously, like probably the most memorable experiences I have was playing single player games with a bunch of friends in the dining room on like a small TV and jumping on and off, like Resident Evil. Like you'd have one person playing, everyone watching, then you jump off and then someone else would get on. And then stuff like Time Splitters when you start playing multiplayer. What else? Halo 2 was one of my best experiences in gaming, because it was when I first got Xbox Live. And I remember going into town, getting everything, getting home, setting it up. I had to use my granddad's credit card, got my account set up, logged on, and we were on I think it was like a 15-inch portable TV or something in the dining room, playing split screen Halo 2 with me, my brother, and one of my friends. And we literally would just play for like 18 hours straight every day, like skip school, do everything just to play Halo 2. And that was like one of my favorite times playing games, 100%.
Okay, so what? Because I'm going to start a new YouTube channel where because you said something earlier that really resonated. You said that when you're making a video a day, you just run out of opinions. And I think I'm getting to that point now. I mean, I'm sitting down to make a new video and I'm thinking, I have no idea what to say that I haven't already said. All the evergreen content is out there. All I can do now is respond to my own stuff. It's got to the point where I need to make reaction videos, and I'm not really super keen on that. So I'm going to start just replaying old games and classic games and critiquing them with modern stuff. Halo 2 is one I'll definitely add. Nice. Have you got any RPGs that you played that really kind of stuck out?
Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah, Shadow of the Colossus is a fantastic game. Yeah,
definitely there.
The problem is with me and anything related to memory is my memory doesn't work the same way as other people's memories do. I'm a very special person, a very special snowflake. I don't remember experiences until I see them again, or somebody in some way triggers the experience. My memory's like it's in a bottle on a shelf, and I don't really remember it until then. Okay. I can tell you the games, but I can tell you almost nothing about what happened in the game until something jogs my memory.
You've played them, but you don't specifically have it.
So
there is an emotional connection
in a way.
Triggered. Okay.
Yeah, it's good in a way, because that means if I've seen a film and I really enjoyed it, I know that I can go watch it again. I've forgot most of it, so it's really good in that way. But in other ways, answering questions like that is extremely difficult. But pretty much Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 10 as well, all fantastic games. Okay. Shadow of the Colossus. I didn't play Shadow of the Colossus, but I watched my brother play the whole thing because that was a big thing for me growing up with my brother and also friends that all played games as well. I've enjoyed watching people play games almost more than playing games myself sometimes, because it is cool to just take in a story as opposed to having to sit and do it yourself. So there we go.
I'm going to write that down now. Shadow of the Colossus and Halo 2.
If you've not played Shadow of the Colossus, mate,
I played it when I was
really good game.
I played it when I was a kid, but I only got through the first 2 or 3 Colossuses or Colossi.
Play the 4K remaster.
Yes,
it's amazing.
That's going to be the plan. I want to get a capture card so I can play it on. Is it PlayStation 4 or 5 that's got it? Is it on? It's not on PC yet, is it?
You can get the emulator. I've played on PC.
Yeah, we could do the emulation.
Yeah.
No,
it's a bit janky.
Legally, obviously, emulating things.
Buy it and then get the emulator.
Yes, about legally. Cal, throw some of the questions we have at Kira, because there's lots. There's loads in my chat. I'm sure there's loads in your chat.
Chat. If you've got any questions for Kira, hit me with them, and I'll throw them his way.
Kira, talk to us about your.
I'd have thought you'd have came prepared. I thought you'd have put together like.
You're at the wrong podcast.
Yeah, put together like
audio sorted.
An actual full questionnaire. I'm surprised I didn't have to fill one out before we came on, to be honest.
No,
Kira, how tall are you? That's one question.
How tall are you?
Funny story, actually. I was 6 foot, but I'm not anymore.
Oh.
Basically, I've shrunk by 2 inches. So there you go. Apparently my spine is compacted and made me shrink. So there you go. I was 6 foot. I've not been measured recently, other than when they said you've shrunk. But I didn't. At that point when they said it, I should obviously be able to work out. But it was like 2-point-something inches or something around that, which for all men out there is not an insignificant amount of inches.
No. 2 inches is at least that far. It's long. It's a long thing. I'm sorry to hear that. That means you've fallen below the magical 6 foot
Tinder number
that Tinder needs.
Yeah. So I won't be going on Tinder, and if I was, I'd just lie about it anyway.
Yeah, you're plenty of fish material now.
Yeah, I mean it's still close enough that as long as nobody checks me, as long as if they're not 6 foot. And I'm stood next to them, and I'm 6 foot, and they're like, "No, you're not." Then it's okay. But if they pull out a tape measure, then I'm fucked, obviously.
No, that's when you get the man bun on top.
Yeah, true.
It works.
Yeah,
it works. Yeah. And the beard is looking remarkably good. Everyone in the chat is saying that the beard is looking solid. Kira, is that going to stay? Are we going to go longer with that?
I'm probably going to chop off the hair at some point soon, and then we'll just go full beard mode. Because at that point, if I got rid of the beard, I'd probably look like a overgrown baby. So I'll probably have to stick with the beard.
Because right now you've got a thing. Who's the character in Game of Thrones? I'm going to get the guy's name up. Someone in the chat will know. Game of Thrones, red-headed guy, the wildling guy, the really cool dude.
Tormund.
That's the one. That's who you remind me of right now, in like a good way. In a really good way. Yeah, that's the.
I mean, he is awesome.
Yes.
He is awesome in that, to be honest. So I can't take that one.
Did you watch the last season of Game of Thrones, Kira?
Why you this whole podcast? I feel like you've been bullying me, Josh, asking me all these questions.
What happened with the last series?
You're just trying to make me upset, aren't you?
I am. I'm trying to remind you of all the bad things. We need drama. Positivity doesn't sell. We need negativity. I've got a list of all the worst things that have happened.
I don't think anybody can answer what happened with the last season of Game of Thrones because people are still trying to figure it out, or they're trying to scrub it from their memory because the last season of Game of Thrones was... I think it's an insult to really even call it bad. It was...
atrocious.
Yeah, I don't even think that does it justice. I think it was... I think they really tried hard to just piss people off because that's the only way they could make it as bad as it was. Because it was really, really bad.
They actually got rushed because the directors, the writers, got offered the Star Wars job. And
yeah, I did hear that.
They were told that they could only have the Star Wars job if they finished Game of Thrones within a certain amount of time. So they had to cut the final season down from having... It was meant to have 14 episodes, and they cut it down to 8. So they cut a massive amount of setup and plot and development out in order to get the Star Wars job.
It was going to be 2 series.
Yeah, and it was so bad that when it released, they didn't get the Star Wars job because they basically said that's not good enough. You've shot yourself in the foot here.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, with how bad the writing was and everything, you could give those 2 people you could have given them 20 episodes. It still would have been shit, I think. So I think that was like a mercy in one way. That was like a mercy killing. They just let us off with having to watch like another, 6 episodes of that or whatever, because that was really bad. Because it didn't even make sense. Like, it was like skipping forward in time. Yeah. And then if you even remove that, the characters were written so badly that they literally just ruined. It's like they spent 7 seasons building every character's story up, and then they went, how did we just destroy this character in like 15 minutes? Yeah. And then they just went with that, like the Daenerys. I'm not going to spoil her because the show's good.
Yeah.
But stop when you get to season 7.
Yeah. It all felt just out of order as well, didn't it? There were like some episodes I had to go back and check I was on the right one, watching it back, and I was like, that doesn't. There's things here that have already been resolved in the previous episode. Like, why are they now bringing them back up? Like, they're done. It was definitely an odd one. It's a shame because the first 7 seasons are incredible.
It was a real big shame.
That would be my choice for TV series to an MMO.
Game of Thrones.
I was going to say that earlier as well. Game of Thrones, but it's like a super obvious one because it's such a huge piece of media.
One of my favorite YouTubers, JXE. I really enjoy JXE's videos. They've got a video where they played the crap Game of Thrones browser game, because there was a Game of Thrones MMO.
Yeah, there was a Game of Thrones game as well that came out that I played, but I can't remember what it was called.
It was basically Raid Shadow Legends, but reskinned.
Yes, Game of Thrones Legends or something like that. We should look into it, but it was bad. It was really bad. I'll link it if I can to Discord. But yeah, the JXE played through the Game of Thrones browser game, and it was absolutely. It wasn't the Telltale games you're thinking of, was it? The story focused Telltale games.
No, there was another.
I know the one he's on about.
It's like an RPG. I got it for free from somewhere. I think I've got it on my Steam. But it wasn't good. I played it for a very, very brief amount of time.
Yeah, it was the. Ooh, no, it wasn't that one.
These games often rely on the...
It's just called Game of Thrones.
Oh, wow.
Oh, the browser one's Game of Thrones Build Your Kingdom, isn't it?
Yes, because they're relying on name recognition and not actual quality of gameplay to get through, which I think, to be honest, the Lord of the Rings MMO is doing as well. I think if the Lord of the Rings MMO was not Lord of the Rings branded, I don't think it would be surviving still. I think it would have died within months of it releasing. I think they're relying heavily on name recognition.
Plus, definitely. I think the people that play that game are like the people that play Final Fantasy 14. Like, they just play it because it's got Lord of the Rings story.
Yeah.
Like, Final Fantasy 14 is obviously a fantastic game. I don't want to get that one misquoted on me. I've already had that at some point. But it's a story game. It's a JRPG first and MMO second. You play the game for the story. I think most people play Lord of the Rings because they just, they want to go and talk to Tom Bombadil. Like, they're not playing it because it's an MMO. They're playing it because it's a Lord of the Rings game. Absolutely. I did see that a new Lord of the Rings game got announced the other day. Did you guys see this?
No.
Yes, I haven't looked into it, though.
Got cancelled by Tencent. Has it announced again?
I believe it got sold off from Tencent to someone else to do.
So, it's not the MMO. It's made by NetEase.
Oh, no.
So I think it's a mobile game.
Oh, mobile games. Okay. What else? What is NetEase famous for? I know the name. I'm going to Google it and find out what they're famous for.
Pay to win.
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
Lord of the Rings: Rise to War. It's called, and it comes out on the 23rd of September. But all they showed was like some weird, like, CGI trailer that doesn't tell you anything about what the game's about. So if a game's coming out in a couple of days and you see NetEase and no gameplay, it's probably going to be... Yeah,
looking at their portfolio and it's awful.
Is it a mobile game?
Yeah, it's 100% mobile.
Gotcha. Because the problem is mobile games make a lot of money. Like a ridiculous amount of money.
So cold in my room. 1 second, I'm just going to have to go and grab something.
That's fine, take time. Yeah, mobile games make an absolutely ridiculous amount of money. I mean, Cal, you've seen how much money mobile games make compared to console games.
Yeah, it's absurd. In fact, this is something that I'd jotted down this week. Now, I don't know if Ember Sword is supposed to be a mobile game. I think it's supposed to be a mobile cross with browser game. So it's basically mobile ported to browser.
Okay.
They have raked in 200 million from their land sale for a game that doesn't exist.
Yeah,
Are you
200
talking
million.
about Ember Sword?
He already
Yeah.
knows. He knows
He knows.
straight away.
Oh god, it's
Mate.
Macklemore.
Yeah.
I was thinking
I'm
Bane.
wearing my my fiance's bathrobe. Yeah.
Hey, rock it. It looks good. Tell us about Ember Sword, Kira. 'Cause I genuinely don't know about this. I haven't looked into it yet.
I'm not an expert on Ember Sword. I think Cal probably knows more than me, to be honest. It's just another. They have a game, but nobody's ever played it.
Yeah,
And they're selling
Spot on.
land for a shitload of money. I think it was 200. Was it 203, 205 million for one world, and they have 4.
Yeah, that's
So-
it. They've got 4 worlds, and this is the pre-sale for their Emberwood or whatever it's called, the first world, and they've raked in over 200 million. There was footage that apparently did exist, but now doesn't because they DMCA'd it. But I don't know why they do that when it was footage they apparently put out. And it just seems like they put something out, it flopped, so they removed it and said, oh, that wasn't meant to go out yet. So there's just nothing. Like, in fact, this is possibly worse than Earth 2 in the sense that nobody's even seen anything of this.
I think what they did was, from what I watched, it was like a developer. I think it was at like some kind of conference, and they had the developer for Ember Sword like explaining the game as he was playing it, and it just looked like
Trash.
yeah, it just looks like a lot of the like crypto NFT games do, which is it's like a game that you played 20 years ago, which it's not exciting to anybody other than the people that are using it as like a platform to try and get rich, which is why they're not capturing like hearts and minds of gamers. They're just, you know, getting people that want to buy land in something that I don't understand how it has value, because
there's actually a big flaw with this, and someone asked me this yesterday on Discord, and it led to a huge discussion. So I'd like to know what you think on it, Kira. So people are selling the metaverse. They're shipping it as this thing where everybody's making their own worlds, and because they're based on NFTs, you can take a Star Atlas big destroyer ship for 43,000 that you've bought, and someone else can implement it into their game, so you can use it in both games. But the big problem with this is, why would they implement it in their game when they could just sell the ship themselves? And this is where the whole metaverse thing completely falls apart, because everyone's going to want to build this walled garden if they do ever get to the stage where it's considered a metaverse. It's just going to be tit for tat between all of these metaverses, and it's just going to fall apart at the seams. Like, what do you think on that?
I think somebody's gonna do it. Like, eventually somebody's gonna do it, and it's gonna actually make sense. I'm not like 100% sold on the idea that it's never going to, but the way that most people are trying to do it right now they don't have a model. Like, it never makes sense, because using the Ember Swords example specifically, the game isn't going to be played by gamers because it looks like an old game that nobody wants to play. If people aren't playing, Elder Scrolls Online or World of Warcraft anymore, they're not going to play Ember Sword. They're not going to be teased in by the idea of like the NFT stuff. So if nobody's playing the game, the stuff doesn't have value. It only has value now while people speculate on the idea that people will play the game. But any gamer can look at it and say, I'm not going to play that. Yeah. So it has value until the game releases, and then it'll have like a little bit of novelty for a little while probably, and then that's it. That's completely done. They don't have a future post-launch, which is pretty much how all these things operate, and that's the problem, I think. When somebody makes like a game that's really cool that uses it, they might be okay. Or like a card game would be a good example of like how you could implement NFTs and things like that. It would make sense.
Yeah, for limited runs and such. Yeah, but it's led to this weird fallacy where people are saying that the reason they're not scared of getting into these things early is because even if the game goes down, they can sell the NFTs.
Yeah.
And everyone, like, we've all got the same opinion on this, all three of us. I already know. If the game's not there, it has no value. So why do people keep defending this? It's just bizarre to me.
They think it's like a piece of art or something. That's the common defense that you get is, oh, but you know, if it's the game's not being made anymore, then that's going to be unique, and I'll have one of them. And it's like, great, like you can literally have anything that's unique. It doesn't mean it has value to anybody. Like who's going to buy in 5 years' time? Who's going to go? Oh, I've got a Star Atlas, you know, starship. Like who fucking cares? Like nobody's going to give you anything for that. It's worthless.
Yeah. And for it to be useful in any other metaverse or crypto game, like I said earlier, the developers need to actually program it in. So, you know, that model of the ship in Star Atlas that you've bought doesn't exist in the NFT itself. And this is something that a lot of people don't actually seem to understand, even though we quite obviously do. They're going to have to take the models. They're going to have to get the license for these models from Star Atlas to put it into another game, at which point it's not going to happen. Like the legal complications with all of this is like astronomical.
I mean, why would they either? Why would they even do it? It's going to it would even devalue the stuff that they've already got in their game and the stuff that their people hold. So
because if they can sell it in that game now, they've just flooded their game with a currency that's come out of the ether. It's come out of nowhere.
Yep.
It does.
So there's no reason for them to do it ever. So it's just one of I think that's one of those like pure copium things that they've been told or read online, like this idea of what they can do with their NFTs for these games, and then they have to like perpetuate it to each other as like get their fucking little safety blanket out and like just start huffing their copium together.
It does seem to be that a lot of products, when you don't have a good product to sell, you sell an emotion related to the product. I mean, the way I explain it is mystery boxes. You know, I was in HMV a few days ago, and they've got cardboard mystery boxes, and on the side it says, cost $9.99, Amazon value at least 25 quid. And the only reason they're selling those is because they can't sell the items on Amazon, because if they could get 25 quid for them, they would sell them for 25 quid.
Yeah.
So these games, whether it's an NFT game or a crypto game or a game that you invest in, they're often trying to sell you everything apart from the game. Because as soon as they release the game, you will very quickly realize the game isn't as valuable as the potential that you think the game has. And I think this links back pretty heavily to Star Citizen, who seem to be selling the idea of what it could be, not necessarily the reality of what it is or is going to be.
Yep. This is one of the things about Kickstarter, and I can relay this back to Titan Reach, which has just had some very good news about their game being entirely funded by one individual who's apparently no strings attached, given them hundreds of thousands of dollars to finish development for their game. They had, like, originally on Kickstarter, like a very realistic idea for a game, and nobody gave a fuck. Nobody wanted to fund the game because nobody wants a realistic game. Nobody wants, like, a game that can be delivered that's not really super exciting. They want to be told, Chronicles of Valerio, you can live, you can die, you know, you can interact with every object in the world. It's going to be revolutionary. It's going to be brand new, because the game then exists in their mind. And this also brings up another point, which is the communities that you get the most backlash from when you criticize their product is the product that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Because not only are you criticizing like a game that they like, you're criticizing a dream that they built up in their brain that is more like fantastical and exciting than reality. So it's like you're criticizing and trying to destroy their dreams. So
but
and they jump to backlash because they can't come back with evidence of what you're trying to counter. So it's just instant backlash. Yeah.
They are so. We've got a great quote in the chat here. They're so hungry to take people's money that they are adding in the extra steps of promising what it's going to be and taking the money for the promise instead of just releasing the product and saying, hey, here's what we've got. If you think it's worth money, pay for it. Is this going to be something that you think we see for quite a few years, or do you think the audience are going to get wise to it, or is it a case of a sucker born every minute? For the rest of time, we're going to see promise games as opposed to good games.
You'll always see it. I don't think it's a case of people wising up to it. I think it's a case of the sell. If somebody's good at selling things, and plus, not everybody gets scammed or gets sold something. It's always like different groups of people. And then obviously on the like NFT and crypto front for their games, most of those people aren't being fooled. Like, they know exactly what they're buying into, so that's going to keep going ad infinitum. Basically, that's just never going to end, because they're making money on the way up, and it's the same people doing the same things in the same projects. So they're already like aware of everything that's going on. But in terms of Kickstarter and stuff like that, we saw probably the boom of Kickstarter MMOs, and I don't think Kickstarter as a platform, you're really going to see that many anymore, because I think Star Citizen specifically is so big that everyone's kind of aware of that concept. But there will be ones that come out that have at least a little bit of something, or, you know, people think that they do due to how much easier it's getting to like present like a trailer and things like that with UE5 and stuff of that nature.
Yeah.
That it's gonna be a problem more so in the near future than it is right now, I believe, and I don't think it ever goes away, because while ever there's people willing to do that, there'll be people willing to believe the dream and give them money, which just creates that loop of, you know, if they're willing to do it and people are willing to give them money, nobody's going to stop doing it.
Yeah, I've often believed that when a media becomes too saturated, you don't get that one thing that everyone gets involved in. We were talking about Game of Thrones earlier. I don't think there's been a TV show since Game of Thrones that had everyone collectively so excited for something. It brought people together. It gave that lovely community cohesion. And I think World of Warcraft did that pretty well for MMORPGs. You had one big, overwhelming MMO, and EverQuest before that, and Ultima before that. When you have one lightning rod of a piece of media, whether it's a game, a film, a book series. I mean, Harry Potter was the same when the Harry Potter films came out. Everyone was talking about them. What do you think an MMORPG would need to do in today's landscape of so many MMOs to grab the snowball amount of people that would get it rolling, that critical mass of players that makes it relevant to everyone again? What do we need to do?
I don't think I have the answer for that one, to be honest. I mean, the obvious one is just make a good game, which is the really hard part, is just make a good game that grabs people's attention and that people are going to play, and that's obviously the cop-out answer. But it's the only real one, because I don't think there's any shortcuts to it. I mean, I think the best example of this is Final Fantasy XIV again. They've not taken any shortcuts with the game. The game's been just chugging along for years now, and people have only just started to really wise up to the fact that it's just a good game, and they've not made the same mistakes that WoW made along the way, which I think one of the biggest ones was cannibalization of their own content, which is essentially, for people that don't know what that means, in Final Fantasy XIV, the base game is still as relevant today as it was when the base game came out, because you have to play that content. Like, you have to do it. So it's still there as something to do. Whereas in World of Warcraft, every patch cycle is basically they delete what they did before. So they invalidate all the work that the developers did, the designers. They make those experiences completely irrelevant, and then nobody does them anymore. So basically you're always playing like 2 weeks of content every expansion. And then as soon as and then as soon as a new content patch comes out, delete what you just did. Nobody's doing that raid anymore. Just move on to the next thing. You get your catch-up gear, and Final Fantasy XIV has done a really good job of just keeping the game relevant and just building on what people enjoyed, which is the complete opposite of what WoW did, basically.
Ironically, an expansion actually doesn't. It doesn't expand the game. An expansion obviously shrinks the game because it makes more content irrelevant than it brings to make relevant. We've got people in the chat saying that one of the key things that a new MMORPG needs would be a franchise. So what do you think that the Riot's new League of Legends MMORPG, do you feel that has a chance? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, Riot just makes popular games, so I think no matter what Riot makes, people are going to play it because it's a Riot game. They have like an extremely dedicated fan base. It's almost cult-like in their following of Riot games, and they also don't really push the barrier too much. They don't push the envelope too much. They just make games that people enjoy, and make them a little bit more accessible and casual, and they'll just do the same with an MMO. They'll just make another MMO that people are going to enjoy playing. I honestly think it'll be one of the bigger MMOs, because just for that reason, they don't really go crazy with it, but they know they know the right things to say, they know the right things to do. You've seen with the marketing of Valorant, they basically just like, they took note of what was going on in the CSGO community and then just banged on those points the whole time. Like,
you just capitalize on other failures, don't they? And slide in when it's ready.
You've got no cheaters, or hit reg is the best, Pika's advantage doesn't exist. All
it's
these
free.
things that, it's free. All these things that, you know, you can't solve. You can't solve Pika's advantage. Latency exists. That's a factor networking. The hit reg is, you know, it's the same shit as Counter-Strike. You have some problems sometimes, but they know what to say. They package the game in a fun way. They make it a little bit more casual, a little bit more accessible, and that's what's popular. So yeah, the Riot MMO is probably going to be absolutely massive. Probably be within a couple of years coming out. If they don't massively fuck it up, it'll probably be one of, if not the most popular MMO. I think.
I think it could be the next Wildstar. You know, just came out of nowhere, stayed around for a while, and then just disappeared into the dust. That's what I think might happen with it.
Do you think that maybe Riot are in the position to make what Blizzard had with the original Warcraft?
Yeah.
Because they make it casual. We spoke earlier about how they make it casual. Do you think Riot have got the franchise recognition, the player base established, the infrastructure? Because they've got a lot of Blizzard devs now, haven't they?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think Riot are probably one of the few companies that you could pick out and say they could actually make an MMO and make it huge, because they already have all the backing in the world. They've got actual good developers. I mean, say what you want about Ghostcrawler and stuff like that, but he wasn't in charge of things when the game was at the worst. Obviously, the game's at the worst now, and he obviously knows what he's doing. And they can just hire all the best talent. All the best talent's already leaving companies like Blizzard. And obviously the name recognition of Riot Games, people will just play all of Riot Games. So they are probably the company that's in the position with their brand, because people love Riot Games, people love League of Legends, and that I don't know why, because I never got into the lore of the game, to be honest. I didn't even really know the game had lore when I was playing. I was just playing it to play ranked and have fun, which is actually not a sentence that makes sense, playing League of Legends ranked and having fun. But yeah, I do think Riot Games is probably the one that's going to take over from Blizzard more so than Final Fantasy 14, because Final Fantasy 14 always has that barrier of, it's weird for some people in the West. If you're not into like anime culture and stuff like that, it's just a bit of an odd game, because that whole like Japanese effect of like the, I guess, weeb culture and anime and stuff. So yeah.
Speaking about new players, you've been playing MMORPGs since Ultima. You've had a long history with them. You've got a really a huge base of knowledge about them and how they've changed over time and how the gameplay has changed over time. What do you think has been, or what have you seen as some of the most substantial changes to the genre in terms of either game design or player base or player expectation? You know, from then to now, what do you think are the most notable changes?
I think probably the one that had the biggest knock-on effect that most people don't realize is monetization. Like, obviously everyone knows monetization's probably got worse over the years, but the change from the subscription model really changed pretty much everything about the MMO genre. It changed everything about RMT, which is real money trading. It changed how they design games, because previously you had to design a game to be as engaging as possible over as longer a period as possible to keep people subscribed year round. Because if you didn't make money, because there was no other way other than keeping people subbed for 12 months to get any more money out of them. And now you can just design games that give like a very short burst of fun, and then just get them to buy something in the cash shop. So I think that is probably the thing that had the most impact on MMOs in general. But in terms of design and stuff, it's mostly just like the dreaded word of convenience and just casual. which a lot of people that come from like older games really don't like. I think it's like different. You want to play something different sometimes. You want to play something a little bit more accessible, especially as you get older and you don't have enough time, and you've got your job and your kids and your wife and everything.
Yeah.
So I think it does have a place, but I do think like the casual aspect of MMOs is definitely like the biggest change probably that got brought on, but also by monetization in a way. But expectation wise, I don't really know, to be fair, on that one.
I would say that casual and accessibility are words
Yeah.
that a lot of people would confuse together, because when you say someone, oh, the game has become more casual friendly, some people see it as an insult or they see it as a negative,
Yeah.
because they think it shouldn't be, they think it should be hardcore. And you say to someone, oh, the game has become more accessible to a wider audience, that has a much more positive overall tone and vibe to it. I mean,
Yeah.
Cal, what's your... Because you and me both started from around the RuneScape era, didn't we? So
Yeah.
what would you say the biggest change was that you've seen?
The biggest change that I've seen with like accessibility to MMOs is the fact that the subscription is a big thing. So obviously MMOs without subscriptions are a lot more accessible to people. They can just hop in, test it out. But I think it's also leaving a bad taste in their mouth with a lot of the ones that they are jumping into. So let's say we jump into just a no-name MMO that their friends told them to join, and it's pretty bad. It's a cash shop MMO. And then you try to get them into an actual, a subscription-based MMO. They're going to be less likely to want to actually get into it than they were in the first place. I've noticed that with a lot of my friends over the years. Like, getting anyone into MMOs is progressively more difficult now. And I think the subscriptions have a big part to play with that, because it is an inconvenience. You don't want to pay money to try a game that you're probably going to bin.
Yeah.
And I
that's
don't
why
think that's going to be
most of those
fixed.
have free trials though, don't
Yeah.
they? Or they have like you buy the game and you get a month for free at least.
Yeah.
But it is still a really big commitment. If you even tell somebody the concept of like, if you do enjoy the game, you're gonna have to pay $15 a month or whatever, then it is a tough sell nowadays, especially when everything else is free to play. So
Yeah.
it is 100% like a really tough sell.
It is a tough sell.
It's one of those situations where no one wants to pay a subscription fee for a game because you can get so many good games for free. But when playing the game for free, no one wants to then pay the microtransactions, because they then would consider that pay to win or pay for convenience, which I think have a huge overlap. Pay to win and pay for convenience can essentially almost be the same thing sometimes. So where's the easiest way for the MMO to make money now? It seems to be that it's pay for fashion, as in Guild Wars 2 does it. You pay for the skins, you pay for the skin shop and stuff like that. With the monetization changing so drastically, and the monthly sub being replaced by pay for the cash shop, how extreme do you think we're going to see it go? Because some of these cash shops have, you can't even call them microtransactions. They're hundreds and hundreds of pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, what are the most ridiculous ones that you've seen in games?
Aside from Star Citizen being the obvious one, Black Desert Online's probably got to be the worst one in terms of just how expensive everything is. Like, you can't really call those microtransactions. It's like £35 for like a waifu skin.
Yeah.
It's like, they look good. Like, grats to them on their art department and everything. Their skins are fucking awesome.
That's a game box price, though.
Yeah, exactly. It's buying a game. And the thing is that you buy them. Like, I buy them. Like, people just will, because they've figured out that every game now by a big company they've ran it through like psychologists, and they've crunched the numbers, and they know, 5 people might be turned off by this idea of spending €35 on a skin, but one person will buy multiple of them, and he'll offset those 5 people. So this is the middle ground, and they've worked everything out to they've gamified everything about the numbers, and they know specifically who's going to buy them, what they would get if they, because people say all the time, if you half the prices of the skins, way more people would buy them. It's probably the same people wouldn't buy them because they're just against microtransactions, and the overlap of the ones that you would get wouldn't offset the money you're making off the people that are what they call it. I mean, obviously whaling's the one, but there's another one, swiping. People that are swiping. Like, you wouldn't get as many swipers that would buy all these ridiculously huge microtransactions. And I honestly think microtransaction is a word that it's not anymore for a lot of these games. Microtransactions, like, I just bought a horse armor for $2 or something.
They're just transactions now, aren't they?
Yeah, they are just transactions.
Yeah,
because they are like full price games as well.
Yeah, you say to someone, do you want to pay £15 a month? They say no. You say to someone else, hey, do you want to pay 50 quid for, 50 gacha pools and a guaranteed, 5-star hero? They go, yeah, that's a great idea. I'll definitely do that. I'll do that some more. And it is a case of a few high spenders will spend. Do you sell one person a £1,000 pack, or do you try and sell 1,000 people a £1 pack? And sometimes it does make business sense, unfortunately, to try and sell that one person a £1,000 pack, because someone will buy it. Someone somewhere will buy it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I can't remember which game this was, but there was a big controversy. There was an MMO that was, they had a cash shop where you could buy pretty much anything that you could get in game on the cash shop. And they did studies to see who was spending the most amount of money, and they nerfed their drop rates in game because they knew that to keep up with the treadmill, they'd keep buying. And someone had done like statistics on this with in-game drop rates on accounts that had purchased and hadn't, and there was this ramp of just drop rate dropping off.
Yeah, they do it with mobile games. Right. You know when you're playing a mobile game and you get a pop-up that says special offer, 90% off, normally £5, now £1, and you click no. As soon as you buy one of those offers, you get more pop-ups for more offers.
They just keep sending them to you.
Clash of Clans does it infinitely.
To buy more.
Yeah.
Kira, what do you think the future of the MMORPG looks like? Because a few people in the chat have said VR, a few people have said crypto or just super powered stuff. What does the future look like for you?
Honestly, this is one of those. I could speculate that it could be something to do with like a metaverse or something in VR. But honestly, people are just, unless they get VR to the point where you can just lay down and just put it on and just like sort out online shit where you just your brain's controlling it and you're not running around, people aren't going to do it.
I've tried to explain to people that VR is tiring. The headset's heavy. It's why people. I mean, if you own the Nintendo Wii, you very quickly realised you could play Wii tennis or Wii bowling by just sitting down and wiggling your wrist, and everyone does that.
Yeah,
it's difficult to do. I mean, do you think we're going to have VR games with people swinging actual swords and blocking and fighting and mining?
Yeah, but I don't think you'll play that all the time. You'll play it for like an hour a day or something. Then you'll go and sit down and play whatever it was you were playing before. I think VR is really cool. Especially when the experiences are well made in VR. VR is awesome, really enjoyable. But would you want to play a VR MMO for like 8-hour days? Like I'm super into New World, I'm going to play 16 hours a day. You're not going to be doing that in VR.
It's a job then, isn't it? But you're not getting paid.
Yeah, you'd be having a cardiac.
But you'd be able to
recognize... if you're going to do that, Bezos would probably put you in the warehouse anyway.
You'd be able to recognize MMO players because everyone would be walking around town just absolutely jacked. People would be ridiculously ripped and ridiculously fit, and you'd say to them, what's your diet? What's your exercise regime? And they'd just reply, pizza,
Dreamworld.
Uber Eats, and
Dreamworld.
I mine at RuneScape for 8 hours a day. Apart from they've got an actual pickaxe because they want to make it, haptic feedback, and they make it realistic. It's like someone in the chat said 3D TVs. And when 3D TVs were the big thing, they're really good if you sit in one specific spot.
Yeah.
And then they made people feel ill.
I was never sold on the idea. I think I went to go and watch one of the new Star Wars films, the first one, The Force Awakens or whatever, in 3D, and I was just like, this is shit. Like it was cool that like you could see the like blasters would come out of the screen, but after like 5 minutes that I was just like,
it's a novelty, isn't it?
Why have I paid like
you get motion sickness
for this ticket? Yeah, it's giving me a bit of an headache. Why have I paid more money for this? It's just one of those things. It's a novelty. I don't think VR is a novelty, but at the same time, for games that you're going to play a lot, you're not going to be using VR unless
VR is a long way off from MMOs. A long way.
I think that's actually why Avatar became, not anymore, but it was for a long time, the highest grossing film of all time, because the 3D was a big novelty and everyone bought the 3D tickets, and it just made so much.
It was the first 3D in cinemas, I believe.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I think there may have been one or two films before it, but they weren't good. So you had like Disney or Pixar animation that had like one or two 3D scenes that had the red and blue glasses, not the good real 3D ones or real D or whatever they were calling it. Yeah, so it's a novelty. It was a novelty that came out that people paid for, and now they realised it's a flash in the pan, it's fun for a bit, but it's not sustainable over the long term. But what is sustainable is definitely mobile MMOs. Do you think that's going to be another, major turning point? Are we ever going to see one mobile MMO that everyone in the world plays?
Well, if they do, I'm not going to be fucking playing it, so it doesn't really matter. I'll still not play it. I've got no interest in playing mobile games because I feel like to play a mobile game, you've got to leave your house and do stuff, because if not, why not just play on PC?
Yeah.
And I don't leave my house and do stuff, so got no real reason to play a mobile game.
No, I agree.
But they already are, like, in everywhere barring the West, just absolutely massive mobile MMOs. And they're all the same, by and large, and they all do the same things, and they release a new one every year. And it's very telling when you look at the companies that were making MMOs in the West. How many of them are making MMOs in the West on PC now? Pretty much all of them are swapped to mobile, because you can have like $1 million budget and make an MMO on phone on mobile that's gonna make like $1 billion over a couple of months.
Yeah.
So why would if you walked into a business meeting in 2021 and said, I want 200 mil to make an MMO, and they said, oh, okay, what platform is it going to be on? And you said PC, they're just going to look at you like you're an idiot, because why would you do that when you make something on mobile and make a ton more money? That they don't care. And I think this is the key problem for MMOs that other genres don't have. You can make an indie FPS game, and it can be really cool, and it can do a lot, and it can change the face of the genre, and it can bring in like a really cool, I guess, innovation. But you can't really do that in MMOs because they're too expensive to make and they take too long.
Yeah.
By the time your cool ideas like fleshed out, it's like 6 years down the road, and nobody cares anymore. So you don't really get that. What you get is the big companies that come in, and they're always either going to do one thing. They're going to copy what is already out because it's successful, and you don't want to take many risks when you're doing something that costs so much money. Or you're going to make something that's so ridiculously monetized, because if you don't do that, why would you bother? Just make another game or make a mobile game. So it's a really weird position to be in, because as a company, you would have to be kind of stupid to make a PC MMO nowadays.
Yeah. I think we're reaching a crossroads with that, though, aren't we? Because now there's a lot of crossover with mobile games, mobile MMOs that are being brought to PC.
Yeah.
And especially with the new Unreal Engine tech, we're seeing a lot of PC games being ported to mobile now. RuneScape's not Unreal Engine, but, they've done it, and it's proven that there's a massive market for it.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to get to the point soon where MMOs are just playable cross-platform.
Yeah,
because it seems to be the way it's going. There's a big market for both of them. Sure, it's bigger on mobile right now, but as soon as this GPU shortage and stuff, starts to ramp down, we'll see people getting back into PC. We see a big surge in it.
Hasn't Warframe recently announced that they're going to be trying to do cross-console, cross-platform? I'm sure that Warframe had a thing recently where they said
someone linked me that a few days ago, actually. Yeah, I think they are. Which, I mean, if you can do it, why would you not?
Yeah, I would hope so, because I really think cross-console is one of those big barriers that people don't think about, or they don't realise how massive the barrier is. If one of the greatest strengths of Final Fantasy XIV, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, PC, Mac, everyone's gaming together. As soon as a big MMO comes out that says, right, it doesn't matter what console you've got, it doesn't matter how you're playing it, you can play with your mates with no limitations. When that happens, it's going to be a really big feather in their cap.
Yeah. I mean, you saw that already with Fortnite, right? When Fortnite did the crossover where literally everybody could play with everybody, like it's a massive thing to happen to a game, but it's just one of those things where as soon as I don't know, maybe I'm just the most cynical human in the world, but as soon as you put anything that's on PC onto mobile, I'm just like, what's going to happen to the monetization? Because people that play on mobile for whatever reason are way more willing to spend money on just the most egregious shit possible. So I don't know. That's the part that really confuses and bothers me.
There's actually a psychology behind it. You've only got a certain amount of decision making power per day. It's actually one of the reasons that politicians or famous people, you see them wearing the same clothes again and again and again and again and again. If you don't need to make a decision about what you're going to wear, you can use that decision making power on something else. The more decisions you can automate for yourself, the more decision making power you can retain. You've been at work all day, you've been working hard all day, you're on the bus or the train on the way home, or it's your lunch break, you sit in the toilet, you've got your phone out and a little pop-up comes up, hey, spend 99p, hey, spend £5. Eventually your decision making is going to be so fatigued, you just click yes. That they're aiming for people who have used up all of their ability to actually make conscious decisions throughout the day and say no. And mobile is the perfect market for that, because you go to bed at the end of the day, you've normally got your phone when you're in bed with you. And then you've got no decision-making power whatsoever. People pop in and say, hey, do you want to buy this for £2? Yeah, I do. You don't even remember it the next day. That's why it's so damn easy to monetize mobile games.
That's 100% lines up as well. And I saw a GDC about Chinese browser game monetization and how they do it and things like that. And you'll notice if you ever play a mobile game, they have like 1 million servers and they constantly launch new servers. And it's specifically to tie in with that as well, because it's just leaderboard hunting. And you don't even realize until you play one of those games how like psychologically effective it is. And that's one of the reasons why I think something has to happen about gaming in general and just how predatory it is. Because even as someone who's cognizant of what's going on and you're aware, you can see and you can feel your brain having like a draw to these things. And it's like they've figured out everything to do with just getting people to spend money. And I think it's like really harmful. And it's only going to get worse until somebody steps in and does something about it, which obviously a couple of countries have done already. And then all that happens is those countries get banned from playing the game, and then they just continue doing whatever anyway, because they realize they'll make more money from everyone else than, removing those features for everybody and letting those people play.
I was contacted by Gameforge, who make Runes of Magic. Now, subjectively, I still really enjoy Runes of Magic because I've got good memories of playing it when I was a kid. Objectively, I know that it's not great. Yeah. And they launched a new server, and me and a couple of my guys in the Discord went to go and play on the new server, and the new server had a couple of world firsts that people were racing to, and the new server started selling best-in-slot items and best-in-slot leveling equipment, and Runes of Magic is a heavily monetized game anyway, because it's Gameforge, of course it's going to be. And then we were told that if you achieved those world first titles, you'd be able to transfer your character off the new server back onto the old server that you were on. So suddenly you had all the whales rushing again. It was whale bait for
it was a gold rush again.
Yeah, it was a gold rush. It was absolutely a gold rush, and it works into what you were saying earlier, Kira, about opening up a load of new servers. And it is just a case of finding out what people are going to pay for and pushing for it. And this is a real sign of the MMO moving away from passionate developers wanting an adventure to extremely corporate people wanting profit or return on investment.
Yeah. I think another thing that ties into that as well is the removal, or at least the degradation of exclusivity of things in games. Because back, I'm going to sound like a boomer, but back in the day, you used to have a lot of things that was really important and exclusive in games, and now they've lessened that to the point where there's only a couple. So the things that are exclusive are extremely valuable to people because they're just not as prevalent in gaming anymore. So especially in the MMO genre, with things like WoW and things like that, because everybody's got everything, you've seen everything, you've done everything. It's like fatigue in that sort of way.
Like
so whenever they do offer something, exactly, world first, realm first, stuff like that, like really awesome mounts back in the day, they're just not really as important anymore. So when there is something that's really exclusive, they just know that people are going to go crazy buying it, and that's something that obviously games just allow now, like WoW with the
boosts.
What's it called? The not just the boosts, the token.
Oh, the WoW token. Because,
they just know that, if somebody wants to be gladiator or whatever, somebody wants the arena mount, somebody wants the mythic mount, they could spend a bunch of time playing the game and get it and try and be good at the game, or they can just pay people, they can just go to work, come home, buy like 7 WoW tokens, trade the money to somebody, and then just be given the exclusive thing. Whereas people, at least in my experience from playing the game back, in Wrath of the Lich King, Burning Crusade Vanilla, that wasn't really as prevalent, and that ties back into what I was talking about earlier with the RMT market and things like that. Obviously, people used to buy gold back then, but it impacted, a couple % of the population, as opposed to now where it's normalized and officially sanctioned, and it affects everybody, and it ruins aspects of the game that were really integral and important to everybody back when the game was, in my opinion, at the peak. So it's just one of those things that as games get more monetized, congrats to them, they managed to really cripple the RMT market, but at the same time they managed to completely devalue what people valued about their game, which is one of the reasons why I think a lot of games, when they are ran in that corporate way, just get completely ruined.
They take on the thing that's destroying the game by being the charge that destroys the game. So instead of saying, gold selling is bad and we're going to combat it, they're saying gold selling is bad and the only way we can combat it is by taking over it and doing it ourselves and making sure we get a cut of the profit from it. RuneScape used the same excuse when they were making bonds, and they said the only way we're going to stop the danger of real-world trading is by just selling the gold itself. And this leads to a mathematical formula. If it would take a certain amount of time in the game to earn 5 million, or it would take 1 hour of minimum wage work to just buy a RuneScape bond and sell it to get 5 million, you then have to start saying, is it worth spending 4 or 5 hours in game time when I could just go to work for an hour, come back and spend that? When the best way to progress in a game turns into go to work, come back and buy it, you then have to start asking, why are you playing the game to progress when it's the least efficient way to do it? There's a question in the chat I'd like to get your opinion on. Someone says, everyone says this all the time. People always think it's a great idea because it sounds good, and I guarantee it's a terrible idea. Cal, I think you'll have some input on this as well. Okay. How would a community-driven, open-source, moddable MMO work? And everyone in the chat can see the fact that Cal and Kira are just on side, right? These guys are experienced. Cal's a dev. Kira knows his shit about MMOs. Why wouldn't an open-source MMO work?
Cal's the dev, so we can take this.
Where do we start? For starters, you'd have to open source the engine, which you don't have the license to do. Because, let's be honest, we're not using a stock engine. It's going to be modified, but we can't redistribute it. So for us, that was one of the main hurdles when someone first asked about this, because originally this was the plan. Like, for a bit of fun, we'd make a concurrently running project that the community could modify. First hurdle is the game engine's not yours. You can't modify it and distribute it.
So just build a new engine. All right, pretty simple stuff. Knock that up in an
so let's say we build a new engine.
Mark Jacobs been doing that for about 9 years. Just ask him how that one's going.
Yeah, not going too well. So that's the first problem. But let's say we solve that.
Yep.
It's going to be a shit show. Like, there's no other way of putting it. If everyone can contribute to it, and even if you allow people to vote things in and vote things out, you're going to get non-coherent game design. You're going to get things that just don't belong there. You're going to get bad actors that try to implement bugs to be able to generate infinite wealth and sell it.
Imagine a public Minecraft server with no rules.
Yeah, with no region locks or anything, no blocking the spawn from being built on. You're going to walk in, there'll be a huge cock on the left, there'll be a pit on the right. That's what an open source MMO is going to be like.
It's when you
copyright material thrown in, it's just going to be a disaster.
When people say open source MMOs, they often think of a small exclusive game with them and their mates, or a bunch of like-minded people who would take it seriously, like a Minecraft private server. You just load, not a private server as in illegal, you just have a server for you and your friends.
Yeah.
When you say open source, community-built MMORPG, the minute you give the community the ability to build anything, they build dicks. They put dicks everywhere. It would be Dick the MMO. That's how it would work.
Yeah.
I mean, you've met people. You know what the average MMORPG player is like. They're not good developers. They don't
Even
make
if
things.
You want to look at it as like just a game design, and just assume for whatever silly reason that everyone's going to be not a massive penis. Cohesion is something that makes a game. Like everything has to make sense. Everything has to look like it makes sense. Otherwise, it breaks you out of playing the game. It's one of the reasons why Dreamworld's such an absolute.
Someone's just said that you'll end up with Dreamworld.
Yeah, exactly. You'll end up with Dreamworld, but just worse because they'll just. I don't even know how you'd manage to do that, but they would manage to do that. Like it'd just be an absolute. It'd be a nightmare. It would be a complete nightmare.
Graphical and aesthetic cohesion is so important to how a game feels. I mean, World of Warcraft doesn't have the greatest graphics, but what it has is cohesive style. You see a graphic, a chunky graphic from WoW, and you go, that's a WoW graphic. You see a Final Fantasy model, you go, yeah, that's a Final Fantasy model. You get it. RuneScape, you see that's a RuneScape model. If you were playing RuneScape and you walked through RuneScape and suddenly you saw a house that was super high graphics, and then the next one was a sci-fi house, and then the next one was just a giant dick, you would say, right, where's the what is the game's feeling if there is no consistency with the aesthetics? And if you force consistency, you're limiting player creation. So an open source MMO would instantly become World of Cocks. That's what it would become in every single possible aesthetic style. It would not
Maybe that's
work.
what people want, though.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Dreamworld is proving that it's successful.
Well, I don't know what metric we're using to measure that, but
Dreamworld,
with the fact that all three of us have made videos on it, is probably the only success they've had.
It got more YouTube coverage than a lot of MMOs that came out at the time. Dreamworld proved that all you need is a dream and everyone to leave you, and
this
suddenly
brings
you
it.
can make a game.
This brings it full circle. Have you heard about their latest thing they're planning to add?
No, please tell me.
NFTs.
Oh no! Oh please stop
so,
it.
When questioned on this, they don't know how they're going to do it. They don't know what they're going to be like, but they want to add NFTs.
I swear they've just been with. I swear to God, they just watch our videos and they just go, 200 mil. Ember Swords raised 200 mil. Fucking why aren't we doing that? But we can, Zachary.
I'm actually making a video on this tomorrow. So
do it, Zachary. I picture Zach and Garrison running around as toddlers, and you just being there, getting them. It's okay. It's okay. We can add this.
I always picture it as Zachary's just running round, and then Garrison's just like, I'm trying to do some superstar Google engineer work here. Zach, can you calm down a little bit?
The office is like a giant crash. They're all just...
yeah.
It is. I'm going to start selling.
It would have to be.
I'm going to start selling offline NFTs. If people buy it, I'm just going to draw a picture on a piece of paper, and then when someone buys it, I'm just going to write their name on it and put it in a book. I won't even take care of the book. It'll just be on the shelf. And if in the future they say, "Hey, we own an offline NFT," I will just show them what they own.
I've got an offline NFT here. So some game developer, I don't know his name, and I don't know what his game is. But he asked if he could send me something, and I was like, yeah, sure. Gave him my address. Always a good thing to do when you random people online are trying to send you stuff.
Instantly.
But he sent me this, and it unfortunately doesn't work because they have a proprietary cable that comes with it that for some reason mine didn't come with. But it's basically just like a screen that has like an animated GIF going on. It's got my name in the corner, and it's one of one. So there you go. I've got an offline NFT.
They've sent you a tablet with a GIF on it with a proprietary charging cable.
Fun fact. There's actually something in that picture frame that has a crypto wallet on it with the actual NFT on it.
You joking?
No. So you can find out your address for that thing, and you can make it an online one. So it is an online NFT stored on a really small like Raspberry Pi with a screen. So you can actually send that to someone. You could auction that off.
Right. Well, there you go. We've got a KiraTV 1 of 1. It doesn't currently work, but we can drag the data off it, and then we can just have I feel like lazy PR now. We've got some NFTs.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm doing tomorrow. So as part of tomorrow's video, because Dreamworld have done basically fuck all. There's about 3 minutes of me going through their updates tomorrow, and then because of their NFT, integration that's coming, I plan to make my own NFT in about 5 minutes and show how stupidly easy it is. Because people think that it's this big complex thing.
Yeah.
It's not. It's a 5-minute process. And then if people want to buy my NFTs, there we go. They'll be on OpenSea collection.
I'm just going to start selling mugs. I'm old-fashioned like that. I'm really old-fashioned. I like having stuff. So
As opposed to Dreamworld that are selling 2 mugs. There you go.
Well, I think they've upped the amount now, though.
God, no, they've got so many people they are selling stuff to. It's just absolutely ridiculous. But no, anyone else in the chat got any questions for KiraTV? Because we're lucky to have the guy here. Thank you for giving so much time, by the way.
I wouldn't go that far.
No, we are. You are.
You were the most requested. In fact, you were the only requested, other than Aria Realty.
Well, he's in my Discord, mate. I can ask him if you want. I'm sure he could carve some time out.
That's going to have to be a guest for another time.
Yeah.
While we're waiting for questions, though.
Yes.
Josh.
Yeah.
Did you watch the old school RuneScape Deadman finals?
Oh, do you mean PowerPoint? The game?
Yeah.
The presentation? The lag?
Dude, what even was that?
So, I think I saw the graph as well, because it wasn't just Jagex. For anyone that's unsure, Deadman mode it was the Deadman mode, wasn't it? Is a thing where...
a 1 week tournament.
Yeah, RuneScape starts again for a week, you join in, you level up super fast, then you fight to the death, and the winner gets, was it $35,000?
Yeah, $35,000, yeah, something like that.
Big cash prize to it. And there was a hell of a lot of lag. Like a lot of lag in the last fight, and people died for reasons they should not have died to whatsoever. It wasn't player skill, it was infrastructure problems. But there was a graph going around to show that it wasn't just Jagex that got hit, was it? There was loads of major companies that had lag spikes.
They were blaming it on a DDoS attack. However, there was an issue where in some of these fights, so it was on the last day, they get the last 100 remaining players and put them into 1v1s, 51 v1s, and then they bracket them up as it goes. There was one clan that apparently wasn't lagging in any of the fights, and they think they'd IP grabbed everybody from the pre-tournament Zoom call.
Wow.
So this one clan had just gone through, breezed through all the tournament brackets. They eventually didn't get into the end fight anyway because they were shit, but they've ruined the entire tournament. We're talking 15 seconds of freezes, followed by 5 seconds of really fast gameplay, then freeze again. Yeah, and the entire chat were just saying, Jagex, just rearrange the tournament for next week. This isn't worth it. Just stop it.
And yeah, some people run a lot of the highest likely to win didn't win because they got lagged out. So yeah, that's
streamers got booted after 15 seconds into their fight, got disconnected, their opponent got put through to the next round.
Yeah, it was not.
Is that a common thing that happens with these tournaments? Because it feels like I don't know if it's every time, but almost every time I hear anything about a RuneScape tournament, there's some massive controversy or tech issue or
they're not run on LAN
going on.
Yeah, they can't secure the tournament because it's not on LAN, and that's the main problem. Everyone's prone to DDoSing, just being booted out of their tournaments. It's every tournament I think Jagex have had on old school at least has been a shit show.
There's been a controversy. I mean, the first one went
fine,
of
one that's been
but
smooth.
It was won by Wooks doing the not cheat.
Yeah, and then they
hanging outside. And then it's been a technical infrastructure nightmare. Got a couple of questions here for Kira. Are you playing any non-MMO games offline, or what are you filling your free time with? Your very limited free time because you're putting out a ridiculous amount of content. What are you spending your free time doing?
At the minute, I'm looking for a house because I'm moving. But other than that, I play some Valorant every now and again. A little bit of. I've been trying to do some research on Axie Infinity, so I've been playing that, but it's not really all too fun to be honest. Other than that, I'm looking at Game of Thrones. Football Manager. Absolutely love a good bit of Football Manager. RimWorld every now and again. Other than that,
I keep hearing good things about RimWorld, but I've never given it a go.
You should play it.
Get the Puppeteer add-on for Twitch. Dude, it's great.
Okay.
All your viewers can drop into your world and you control them like minions.
Right, I'm going to have to give that a go.
It's a fantastic game.
Do you have any opinion on the PvP scaling in New World, or any opinions on PvP in MMOs in general, or any stories you'd like to share with us of PvP times?
So PvP scaling in New World, I've tried to avoid pretty much all New World news and everything since the last test because I just want to play the game. And unfortunately, with that, I feel like I get fatigue covering the games, watching the games, playing in betas and things like that. So I didn't pay any attention to this. I've heard people complaining about or going back and forth on the PvP scaling. I've got no real opinion since I've not really looked at it whatsoever. PvP in general, I like PvP a lot in games. I like sandbox games. I know Josh is not the biggest fan of sandbox and PvP, but I do enjoy those. They are a very limited experience and extremely. If you're into them, there's nothing quite like them, but not a lot of people are into them, so whatever. And memorable experiences.
The great thing about this is, Cal, you can cover scams. I'll cover PvE in more storage-based games, and Kira, you've pretty much got sandbox covered with the amount of content. Yeah. PvP. Tell us some more. Tell us some stories.
So back in a game called Darkfall Online in about 2010. I was in a guild who was basically they were doing a server transfer to North America within like a month or something, so everyone was basically going to war, and there was these big battles of like hundreds of people versus hundreds of people, and it was a very hardcore game. If you died, you lost all your stuff. People could loot it. It was a very toxic community because that's what that involves. And I was playing with a bunch of North Americans, so they were doing a siege that could last between like 6 and 10 hours or some stupid shit like that. The devs didn't do a very good job with it originally. And it was 6 o'clock in the morning, and we were just about to win the siege. And my dad was waking up to go to work, and I worked with my dad at the time. And he was like getting out of the shower, and he was like, come on, get ready for work, etc. And I was just sat there, and I'd been playing all night until 6 o'clock in the morning trying to win the siege with my guild. And I used to do that 3 or 4 nights a week, every week for multiple months, because it was just a very hardcore experience, and it was fucking awesome. It was a lot of fun.
And you've got
so that is what I used to spend my time doing.
I love that, man. I love that so much. Your memory's cooler than mine. I spent all night playing RuneScape by myself, not in sieges, but grinding. And my mum and dad didn't have a very large CD collection, but I thought I'll just go through the CDs, and I discovered Savage Garden and The Beautiful South. So my memory is sitting there at the dining room table for 12 hours overnight while my mum was asleep, sneak down to play, listening to Rotterdam or Anywhere from The Beautiful South while killing the Anku in RuneScape for like 12 hours. So not as cool as you with your 6-hour siege and your guild and your team and your clan and then going to work, but no, I'm glad that we've got all the styles and all the history of the games covered between us. Cal, do you have any
I do. I've got one PvP memory that stuck with me. So in WoW, there was they'd done some server merges, the first ones to balance out, populations on Horde and Alliance. And we went to raid Orgrimmar in protest to this. Me and 7 friends from our guild that were just geared to the teeth held Orgrimmar down for about 5 hours, and we obliterated everybody in there, and I'm pretty sure we made some people quit. So that was my good memory. Yeah.
I like
the best part about PvP, making people quit the game.
Yeah, we just saw people logging out, and I don't think they ever logged back in.
Ruining everyone's experience. Fantastic, yeah.
Isn't there an achievement in Team Fortress 2 for doing that? Because in other games they punish you for it, but in Team Fortress 2, I'm absolutely convinced there is an achievement that says have a player rage quit the game after you kill them 5 times in a row. So if you kill a player 5 times and that player then logs off, you get an achievement for making them do that, which I think is quite cool. People in the chat are just commenting different lyrics to Savage Garden songs or to Beautiful South songs. But no, it's almost been 2 hours right now. I think we should definitely look at wrapping this up right now. Kira, thank you so much for giving us all your time and for coming on. How's it been for you? Because I think it's been good for me.
Yeah.
Bit nervous being on. Aside from that, it's freezing in my room, so it doesn't really help. It's one of them things where I literally can't get my hands warm. So other than that, yeah, I've had a good time. Hopefully people have enjoyed.
Chat, what do you think? I mean, everyone has been super receptive to this. People have been asking questions. People have been logging in, and just the first thing they've been typing is just Kira. And everyone is super happy to see you here because you're exceptionally well known with this. People are having fun with it. We should do this more often. I am more than happy to have you come back sometime. I know that you've got a lot going on in the real world right now, so once that's all settled and stable, we would love to have you back to chat about what you've been playing. Cal, how's it been for you?
It's been a blast. I'm glad we've had our first guest on. I'm glad it was Kira.
Yeah, so
definitely need to do it again. Yeah,
I think that it wouldn't be too difficult to get all 3 of us in the same room. It would not be difficult at all.
It would be very possible. Yeah. We all live an hour hour and a half away,
Yeah,
maybe.
we could probably all catch the same bus to somewhere and then just get drunk somewhere place. We could do that. We could definitely do that. But no, chat, thank you very much for joining us this evening. It's been great. Cal, how's your chat been?
My chat's loved it. Yeah.
Good. Good.
They're all good.
I'm glad for that.
Good lads as usual.
And Kira, thank you again once more for taking the time to come back and join us. We'll make sure we get all the links to your socials, your YouTube. Anything you'd like to plug before you head off? Any videos you're working on? Anything you're super proud of recently?
No, not really. I don't really put too much emphasis on each individual video at the moment. I think honestly the crypto, the truth about NFTs, the good old clickbait thumbnail I did recently was a pretty good video.
It was a good video. It was.
People have been enjoying that. So other than that, not really. I've got a video about Star Citizen coming out tomorrow. Ooh. So come and drop a like so you can offset all the fanboys of Star Citizen that are going to get extremely upset.
It's going to be a lot.
Yep.
Because that's what they do. So there you go. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, so you've got Callum for scams. I tend to cover PvE or more story-based stuff. And Kira, you are definitely the leading force on either Sandbox or new MMOs that are coming out and looking at...
Chronicles of Valeria.
Oh, God, your Chronicles of Valeria series, you are the absolute authority on just chronicling that from start to finish. How was that?
Actually really good, because one of the videos I did got like 1.1 million views, which was pretty mental.
Yeah.
And it had a bunch of people I've watched a lot, like Moist Critical Charlie, who watched it, which is absolutely amazing to see. And just really good reception for that video. I wish I'd have spent more time editing it, and obviously things I've learned since then, it probably would have been a little bit more successful, but that's the sort of content I want to make. It's just so hard to do and so off-putting when you do put like 50 hours into a video and then it doesn't do great. So it's a little bit of it's just one of those content creator things. I'm sure you guys have the same thing. When you put a bunch of effort into one video, it doesn't do good, and then you're just like, why the fuck did I just bother doing that? I could have just reacted to Are You Realty?
Just quick and dirty next time. It's always the low effort videos that go like viral, isn't it, as well? Like my Dreamworld, I just bung anything out there because it's like people just want to see it. Those do really well, like 150, 250k views on some of them. And then I'll do like a proper serious piece on VR MMORPGs that I've put a week of research into. It's like 6k. Okay, won't do that again.
It is the ultimate demotivator, but
it is.
It is what you've got to do is you've got to put all that effort into those videos, and then you've got to make the low effort ones just to make yourself happy with the views.
Yeah, it's like an offset, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got to offset it.
Right, well, I am going to be heading off. Cal,
yeah, I've got McDonald's to go
Kira,
catch.
Thank you again once more. We'll link all of Kira's stuff so we can find your videos and find your Twitch and find the Twitter and the Patreon and all that stuff. Thank you everyone in the chat for joining us tonight, and we will see you all next Monday. Take care.
Yeah.